There's a house at the end of my road where the whole yard smells like a perfume shop on a warm evening. Lavender, rosemary, mint, all of it. And the people who live there will tell you they've got a fraction of the tick problem their neighbors do. No chemical spray truck ever pulls into their driveway. They just planted the right things in the right places and let the plants do the work. Because here's something most folks never learned. Ticks, for all that they're tough little disease-carrying monsters, actually can't stand certain plants. There are plants that put out compounds ticks hate, plants that are the literal source of the bug spray you buy at the store, growing right there in the dirt for free. And you can ring your yard with them, make the whole place smell wonderful, feed the bees, and push the ticks back at the same time. Today I'm going to give you the 7 best ones, ranked, and I'm going to be straight with you about which ones really work and which ones are mostly hype. Because half the videos on this topic will lie to you, and I won't. Real quick before we dig in, if growing your own defenses instead of buying them in a bottle is your kind of thing, do me a favor and hit subscribe, because I dig up one of these old, cheap, forgotten tricks every single week. Alright, let's get into it. Now, after the diatomaceous earth video, the ancient powder that kills ticks dead, a lot of you said, "Gary, I love the no chemical idea. What else can I do?" And this is the perfect partner to it. The powder is your killing zone. The plants are your living, fragrant fence line that helps keep them from ever getting that far. Together, they're a 1-2 punch, and neither one costs you a subscription. But before I name a single plant, I owe you the honest truth up front, because it changes how you use all 7. Here it is. A living plant growing in your yard is not a force field. The reason these plants repel ticks is that they're full of aromatic oils and compounds that bugs find offensive. But those compounds are concentrated in the oils, and a plant just sitting there in the breeze only releases a little of it into the air right around itself. So a lavender bush is not going to protect a yard 50 feet away. What these plants actually do is create a zone of ticks would rather not be here right around where they're planted, which is exactly why where you plant them matters enormously, and why you get the most out of them by planting them thick as a border right along the tick zones, and by brushing or crushing the leaves to release more of those oils. Used that way, as a living barrier in the right spot, they genuinely help. Believed to be a magic shield you plant once and forget, they'll let you down. Keep that in your head for all 7. Now, let's rank them. Number 7 is the one everybody mentions, so let's get it out of the way honestly. The marigold. Marigolds have a reputation a mile wide as a pest-repelling plant, and they're cheap, cheerful annuals that gardeners have tucked around their vegetables for generations. Here's the honest scoop. Marigolds do have real effects on some pests. Their roots fight off certain harmful soil worms, and their strong scent deters some insects. But the hard evidence that they specifically drive off ticks is thin. So why is it on the list? Because as a border plant, they're nearly free, they bloom all season, they help your garden in other real ways, and a thick, fragrant edge of them certainly doesn't hurt. Plant them, enjoy them, but don't lean on them as your tick defense. They're the friendly, supporting player, not the star. Number 6 is sage. Sage is a tough, woody, aromatic herb, the same one you cook with, and like most strongly scented herbs, it carries oils that insects find unpleasant. Burning sage to drive off bugs is an old practice, and the living plant gives off enough of that resinous, savory smell to make a tick's immediate neighborhood less appealing. It's drought tough, it comes back year after year, the bees love the flowers, and you can cook with it. So as a permanent fragrant block in your border, sage earns its spot. The repellent effect is modest and local, like most of these, but it's a real, useful, beautiful plant that pulls its weight. Number 5 is rosemary. Now we're getting into the genuinely useful ones. Rosemary is loaded with aromatic oils, and rosemary oil shows up as an active ingredient in actual natural tick and flea repellent products. So this isn't folklore. The compounds really do repel. The living shrub releases that piney, sharp scent all around itself, especially when you brush past it or run your hand down a sprig, and it grows into a dense, woody hedge you can shape into a real border. In a warm climate, it'll get big and live for years. In a cold one, grow it in a pot and bring it in. Plant it where you walk and where your pets pass, so the brushing keeps releasing the oils, and you've got a fragrant, useful, genuinely repellent hedge that also seasons your dinner. Rosemary's a workhorse. Number 4 is catmint, and its wilder cousin, catnip. This one surprises people. Catnip contains a compound called napetolactone, and that compound has shown up in real research as a genuinely effective insect repellent. In some studies, against mosquitoes, it went toe-to-toe with the chemical repellents, and it shows promise against ticks too. Catmint, the ornamental version, gives you that same family of oils in a tidy, gorgeous, blue-flowering plant that blooms for months and that pollinators absolutely swarm. Fair warning, the catnip version will turn your yard into a neighborhood cat lounge. That's the trade. But for a plant that's pretty, tough, bee-friendly, and backed by actual repellent science, catmint punches well above its weight, and it belongs in your border. Number 3 is lavender. Lavender might be the most beloved plant on this whole list, and lucky for us, it's not just a pretty face. That gorgeous scent comes from oils, linalool chief among them, that insects, ticks included, genuinely dislike. Lavender oil is a staple in natural repellents for exactly that reason. The living plant perfumes the air around it. The bees and butterflies adore the flowers, while the ticks and mosquitoes steer clear. It's drought tough and comes back for years, and a thick, low hedge of it along a path or a patio edge is about as close as tick defense ever gets to being beautiful. This is the one I tell people to plant right around the patio and the sitting areas, where you want both the smell and the protection. Lavender is the people's champion of this list. Number 2 is the pyrethrum daisy, sometimes sold as the painted daisy or tanacetum, and this is where the science gets serious. Because this innocent-looking flower is the single most important plant on the list. Here's why. This daisy is the natural source of pyrethrin. Pyrethrin is a real, powerful, natural insecticide. It is the active ingredient in a huge number of the bug sprays sitting on store shelves right now. The stuff that's been refined out of these very flowers for over a century. So this isn't a plant that mildly annoys bugs with its smell. This is the plant they make the actual insecticide from. The flower heads are where the punch is concentrated. Now, I'll be honest, the living plant in your garden is milder than the refined extract. But of everything on this list, this is the one with genuine bug-killing power in its tissue. And you can even dry the flower heads and crush them into your own rough insect powder. Plant a stand of these along your tick line, and you've planted the closest thing to a living bug spray factory there is. Do not skip this one. And
This
number 1,
catmint
the plant
is
ticks
great
hate
for
the most,
edges.
and the one almost nobody's heard of, is
And
American
right here
beautyberry. This is a
the
native shrub,
rosemary.
gorgeous, with
They
arching
both
branches
love
that in
this
fall are
warm
loaded with
sunlight.
clusters of bright purple berries the birds go crazy for. But here's the secret that lands it at number 1. The leaves of the American beautyberry contain a compound, calicarpinol is the name, that researchers, including government agriculture scientists, have studied and found to be a real, effective repellent against ticks and mosquitoes. This isn't a folk tale. Old-timers in the rural South knew it. They'd crush the leaves and rub them on their skin and their livestock to keep the bugs off, and modern science went and confirmed they were right. So you get a beautiful, tough, native shrub that feeds the songbirds, anchors a border, and carries a genuinely science-backed tick repellent in its leaves. Leaves you can crush and rub right where you need them. A beautyberry hedge along your wood line is the prettiest, most effective living tick barrier I can point you to. That's why it's number 1. So how do you actually deploy these 7? You don't just dot them randomly around the yard. You plant them where the ticks are trying to get in. Remember from the powder video, ticks come from the shady, brushy edges, the line where your lawn meets the woods or the tall grass. That's where you put your living barrier. You ring that edge and your patio and the paths where your family walks with a thick, mixed border of these plants. Beautyberry and pyrethrum as the backbone. lavender and rosemary and catmint and sage filling in, marigolds tucked along the front. You plant them densely because a thin scattering does little and a solid, fragrant wall does a lot. And you make a point of brushing and crushing the leaves now and then, especially the beautyberry and the herbs, because that's what releases the oils that do the work. A border like that smells incredible, feeds every bee and butterfly and songbird around, costs you almost nothing once it's established, and quietly tells the ticks to go bother somebody else. But here's how you squeeze real power out of these plants, beyond just growing them. Because the oils that do the work are locked inside the leaves and flowers until you release them. Start with the pyrethrum daisy, the bug spray flower. Once it blooms, snip the flower heads and dry them completely, then crush them into a powder, and you've made yourself a rough, homemade insecticidal dust. The same active compound that's in the store sprays, straight from your own garden. Treat it like the real insecticide it is, though. It'll kill the good bugs too, so you keep it down in the tick zones and off the flowers, and you don't breathe the dust. With the herbs, the rosemary, the lavender, the sage, the catmint, the trick is to bruise them. Crush a handful of leaves and you'll smell that the oils have come alive, and you can steep a big handful of crushed leaves in hot water, let it cool, strain it, and use it as a quick spritz on a patio edge or a path. I'll be honest, a homemade herb infusion like that is mild and it doesn't last long. A real rain or a hot day and it's gone. But it's free and it's pleasant and it stacks with everything else. And the beautyberry, that's the one the old-timers actually rubbed right on themselves. They'd crush the fresh leaves and wipe them on their arms and their animals to keep the bugs off. If you try that, patch test a little on your skin first to make sure you don't react. But let me give you the honest upgrade for skin protection, since we're here. If you want a plant-based repellent that genuinely, reliably works on your body the way the chemical ones do, the one with the real proof behind it is oil of lemon eucalyptus, sometimes labeled OLE or PMD, and you can buy it already made. That's the refined, tested version of this whole idea, and it's the one I'd actually trust on skin in tick country. One more caution. Concentrated essential oils are strong stuff. Some of them are hard on cats and dogs, and homemade brews aren't standardized. So go easy. Don't douse your pets in essential oils, and don't drink any of it. Use the plants smart, and they give you a lot. Now, the honest part, and I promised you the truth, so here it is, because this is a tick video, and ticks are not a joke. First, the thing I said at the start, and I'll say again because it's the whole ball game. These plants are a supplement, not a solution. They reduce, they deter, they tilt the odds. They do not clear a yard of ticks by themselves, and anyone telling you to just plant some lavender and never worry about ticks again is selling you a fantasy that could get someone sick. The plants are one layer. The diatomaceous earth from last week is another layer. Keeping your grass mowed, clearing the leaf litter and brush, and laying a wood chip barrier between your lawn and the woods, that's another layer, and honestly a bigger one than the plants. Stack them all together and you've got a real defense. Lean on the plants alone and you don't. Second, a safety warning, because some of the lists out there will steer you wrong. You'll see pennyroyal recommended as a tick and flea plant. It's an old mint that does repel bugs. I left it off this list on purpose, and here's why. Pennyroyal is genuinely toxic to dogs, cats, and people, and its oil especially can cause serious harm. So I'm not going to put a poison in your kids' and pets' play area to fight ticks when lavender and beautyberry do the job safely. Be careful what you plant, and skip that one. And one more. Catnip will pull in the neighborhood cats, and a big stand of mint of any kind will try to take over your whole yard if you let it. So plant the spreading ones in pots or with a barrier. Know what you're putting in the ground. And the most important thing, the same as last time, because it never stops being true. Ticks carry disease, Lyme and others, so no matter how beautiful and fragrant your border is, you still do the basics. You still check yourself, your kids, and your dog for ticks every time you come in from outside. You still use a real repellent on your skin and treat your outdoor clothes. You still keep your pets on a vet-approved tick prevention. And you still see a doctor if a bite is followed by a fever, aches, or a spreading rash. The plants make your yard less hospitable. They do not make you immune. Keep every layer. Everything I've ever put on this channel, for the house, the garden, the homestead, and the pests, is gathered in one place. Every plant, every method, over at garystips.com. Links in the description. But stay here, because I want to tell you about June, who turned her whole tick problem into the prettiest yard on her street. June's a gardener through and through, and she had the same wooded edge tick trouble half of you have. But the idea of spraying chemicals all over the garden she'd poured her heart into made her sick. So instead, she did this. She built a deep, mixed border all along her woodline and around her patio. A backbone of beautyberry and pyrethrum daisies. Drifts of lavender and catmint that hummed with bees all summer, rosemary and sage she cooked with, marigolds along the edge. She mowed tight, cleared the brush, ran a wood chip path between the lawn and the trees. And she'll tell you straight, she still does her tick checks every time. But between the tidy yard, the barrier, and that thick, fragrant wall of plants, her tick encounters dropped way down. And in exchange, she got a yard that smells like heaven, buzzes with pollinators, feeds the birds all winter off those purple berries, and never once needed a chemical truck. She told me the best part wasn't even the ticks. It was that her defense against them turned out to be the most beautiful thing she'd ever grown. Her neighbors spray a poison they have to keep their kids off of. June grew a perfumed, living wall that her grandkids pick flowers from. That's the trade nobody tells you about. The spray truck wants you to believe the only thing standing between your family and a tick is a chemical on a schedule. But the plants those bugs evolved alongside for millions of years learned to fight them off long before we ever bottled anything. The daisy that became the bug spray, the beautyberry the old-timers rubbed on their skin, the lavender and rosemary and sage that have been keeping bugs out of gardens and homes for as long as people have grown them. There was never just one way to push the ticks back. There was a whole living arsenal, free, beautiful, and growing in the dirt that we mostly forgot in favor of a bottle. You can grow it back, and it'll feed the bees while it works. So drop your state in the comments and tell me which of these 7 already grows in your yard. I bet more of you have a tick-fighting plant out there than realize it. And tell me what your worst tick zone is, the spot you'd ring with this border first. And if your grandparents grew something to keep the bugs off, some plant they swore by, tell me what it was, because that's exactly the old knowledge this channel exists to save. And when you're ready to actually build this border, head over to garystips.com. I've got the full plant list, the planting map, and every method I've ever shown you all in one place, ready to go. Link right there in the description. Because next week, I'm showing you the 5-gallon bucket that catches a dozen mice in a single night. No poison and no snapping traps to reset. The one the people selling you traps by the pack really don't want you to see.